Hello YouTube, Qrider here, and basically I'm here because this is a video that I should have had uploaded over the weekend, but due to having problems with trying an actual edited video for with DaVinci Resolve, I ended up having problems rendering that, so I figured I'd just do like a talking head type of video now. So the two games that I have finished, because this is going to be a video which covers two games that I've completed from my backlog. It is going to be Gamedec, the definitive edition, and it is also going to be Heaven Dust 1. So we're first going to go over Gamedec because I finished that one first. So Gamedec Definitive Edition is basically a cyberpunk combat-free isometric detective RPG. So it has a very interesting world. So as I mentioned, the reason why this game is different than most other detective games is because this one isn't like action-packed in the traditional sense, meaning that there aren't QTEs like in the Sherlock Holmes games. And it's just a really fun game. So, and the Gamedec is basically a game detective. So these are going to be people who get hired on to solve any type of case inside a game. But the way that the people in this universe play games aren't with traditional consoles like we do with the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and the Nintendos and the PCs. What they use are gaming chairs, which are basically or couches actually. So you lay in a couch and then you put on a headset, and then it's like you can. It's basically like an advanced VR, and it's really cool. So basically in this game you're gonna have 6 cases. All right, so each case takes place in a different game. So you're hopping in through different game worlds, and every single time that you go into a new case, there's going to be a new visual HUD style. So your heads-up display is going to look different between all 6 cases. And it's really interesting. This game has a lot of dialogue that is actually, only a very select few of it is actually voice acted, so a lot of it is going to be scrolling. So if you like reading, you're really going to enjoy this game. But if you prefer to have all of your dialogue be voiced, and maybe you don't play games with subtitles, then you're going to find yourself being a little disappointed. So the basis of this game is that it plays in the isometric view style. So you're going to be going around game worlds like it's not like open world. It's like each game world is like a condensed area, but has a lot of people to interact with and a lot of people to get information from. Now, based on how you talk to people, and you'll meet people from corporate execs, you'll meet mercenaries, you will meet businessmen, you'll meet pretty much everybody from the CEO all the way down to the lowly, like the low life criminals. And you're gonna find yourself like, and I wouldn't say enthralled, but you will find yourself very fine. You'll be enjoying yourself. And the writing in this game is really good. So there's no at no point, and I'm not somebody that's really into games that have like a lot of talking, or where the main focus is more dialogue as opposed to actual combat. And I never found myself being bored. I never saw anything in this game that didn't seem to be interesting. There was at no point that I say, hey, none of this doesn't make any sense, or it's just ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous. But basically this game is just really good. So you're gonna like the writing, and you're gonna have to get used to like I said, like there's some voice acting, but just not a lot. Most of it is gonna be scroll, and you're gonna be able to look at a history. So let's say if somebody says something and you get distracted, you can pull up like a history a text history, so you can see your entire conversation so far. So that's really good. Now, you need to do a lot of talking in this game. I mean, a lot of talking. You're going to need to talk to everybody. So this is what's going to happen. You're going to find yourself, somebody's going to say, hey, I want to hire you. You go meet your client. Then when you go meet your client, they say, hey, there's something going on. You need to hop into this game world. You go ahead, you do that. And then as you do that, you basically get into like a zone of the game, and then you go, and then there's like 20 different people to talk to, and you're talking to everybody and you're exhausting all your dialogue options. One thing about dialogue is that you're going to be, the RPG mechanic of this game centers mainly around the dialogue. So there are 4 different types of skill points that you can use, and they're color coded. So it's red for like intimidation or being firm. You have yellow, or gold, which I believe is like the more intelligence based, or you have blue, which if I'm not mistaken, is not too much different from yellow. So it's not too much, it's more like insightful. And then you have green, which is the like the nice thing to say. And basically you get skill points in this game based on how you talk to people. So if you're really nice to people, you'll have a lot of skill points for the green pool of skill points. So basically you get this perk tree. So it's like, maybe this is just the base game. It's like 10, 1, 2, yeah, it's about like 10 to 15 perks in the base game. And you buy these perks with different numbers of the skill points. So let's say if a skill decides that it needs 3 green points and 2 blue points, then you basically going through the game and talking to people, you can then get that perk. So it's really good. It's really fun. And then the perks that you do unlock, since this game doesn't have traditional combat, is going to come up into the dialogue. So if you're familiar with the Fallout series, where you get speech, and then you get let's say like Mr. Sandman or Lady Killer? I know that one from New Vegas, to where you get special dialogue options based on the perk. And then and that's basically how I played the game. So if I had a perk and then there was a dialogue option that allowed me to get some more information based upon the perks that I did buy, then I would choose that one. And there's different things. So basically you're talking your way in and out. Now there are going to be times where you are able to do things and take actions, like get into arguments and shoot somebody in the middle of the argument, but it's not in the traditional, like you press a button and then don't think of it like Mass Effect, where it's like a button prompt will pop up. There's no QTEs, and no decision is ever timed, so you don't have to ever worry about making a decision that you don't want to make. So whatever decision you ever make in this game, you could take your time. So it'll say something like a text bubble will pop up and then say, there was a duel. Okay, this is really good. So basically a good example of this would be, there was a duel, right? And basically the text would say, hey, your opponent is raising their hand to their gun. And then you get to choose whether to shoot right then and there, or to wait, or to look at your opponent, psych them out, and you gotta choose that in a dialogue. And it's just really, really cool. Nothing about this is like I was never bored, and I'm typically a person who doesn't really like a lot of dialogue in games. You know, I just don't. You know, I typically like I'm more of an action gameplay type of guy than whenever it comes down to anything so much as like reading notes in games, like I usually skip those, even in Fallout, my favorite franchise. But all in all, basically That's the main thing you're going to be doing in this game. Getting hired, getting into the game world, talking to people, and then you're going to have, if you're familiar with the Sherlock Holmes games and how you deduce things, where as you talk to people, there's a menu in the game that's all information. So you get dossiers on every single person that you meet. And then you also get another page that says, okay, there's like a web, and then there's a question. So it's like, what happened here? And then there's like 4 different points, and then you have to choose which ones that you can have access to based on who you talk to and the information you got from them. Now, the reason why I say you really, really need to talk to people is because there's going to be times where you're not going to have all the information, and you're going to need to make a decision. That's just how it is. And this game even tells you, like, even if you don't have all the information, you can still make a deduction, or you can still keep going. And the game isn't going to like stop you and say, hey, you chose the wrong option. It's just going to keep going. So I enjoyed that. And basically what you do is you get into a quest, and then you do whatever you can until you get to a point to where the game objective will tell you, okay, in order for you to advance in this quest, you must make a deduction. So you must gather your clues and make a deduction off the clues that you base. Even if you don't have enough for what you believe, there may only be a few options because you didn't really get all the information that you could. So then what ends up happening is that you end up just like, all right, well, I guess what I believe isn't really an option here, but these other 2 options are, and then you choose the one that you like out of the 2 that you have. Like I said, and it's just really fun. It's a real fun detective game. Now, like as I said, there's 6 cases, and then you're going to find out that there's a common thread between these 6 cases. So you're going to be having 6 different stories, but then it's like, as you get further and further into the game, you're like, oh, okay, so this is connected in some way. And then you end up enjoying yourself because you're like, oh, okay, I can't wait. And then at the end of the game, where things really kick off, and the end game is there, and all the players that are that have a play in this scenario comes to light, it's really just interesting. It is very, very interesting. And you do get companions on your quest sometimes. I just know that there was like maybe one companion, and he's story centric. So you're mostly going to be going this alone. And as I said, this is just a dialogue heavy, environment heavy, just you're going to be in that isometric view, going here, making sure that before you leave every room, you're going to be looking for everything that you can click on. And it was just really good. It was a really, really good game. And the definitive edition also comes with some extra content that I did not play, but from what I can see, it seemed to be like a case or 2, not like an expansion, like say, like let's say Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, and Hearts and Stone, or something like that. It's just more so like smaller, bite-sized things. So it's pretty good. So Gamedec, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I don't even know what I would even want from like a sequel, because I just enjoyed the game as I did. You know what? I do want to make a note about an improvement the game could make: tutorials. So whenever there's a new game system, you're gonna be getting a tutorial about it. But when you do, it's very hard to like, at least for me, I couldn't find a tutorial screen in the game. Maybe you have to go back to the main menu to see the tutorials, but I just couldn't find it. So once the tutorial came, I read it, and then I was like, that's it. But if you ever need like a brush up on anything, you're pretty much assed out. But all in all, Gamedec, fantastic game. Go ahead, check it out. Now, I'm also going to be talking about Heaven Dust 1. Now, this is the other game that I finished over the weekend that that I was like, ooh, I can't wait to make a video, because once I make a video, then I'll be able to, instead of saying, hey, here's the one video over just Gamedec, I can grab in another game. So, Heaven Dust 1 is the game that I played mostly on Saturday night going into Sunday morning. So I took two sittings. Now, my game time, this game is extremely short. It's about 3 hours long. So my play time was 3 hours and 5 minutes. Now, when it comes to survival horror games, I don't really have the biggest history with them. So if I can name off all the survival horror games that I've played, I don't think I can list off 10. Okay, so I got into Resident Evil at Resident Evil 5. So I've played 5, 6, 7, Revelations 2. What other Resident Evils have I played? And I've tried 4, but I never got past Resident Evil 4, like the first village ambush. I've played The Evil Within, a good chunk of Evil Within 2. Of course, Dead Space 2. Actually, that's about nine games. Plus Heaven Dust, that's 10. I can't think of any other. I played a little bit of Deadly Premonition. I'm not sure if that counts, but pretty much like I'm not that familiar with Resident Evil. Oh, you know what? I did play Resident Evil 0. I got to right past the train part where the train crashes at the beginning, and then I quit. I played maybe about like 30 minutes of the Resident Evil remake on the Switch. So you know, I'm not that familiar with you know what? Maybe I am more familiar with survival horror than I thought, because I've always considered myself like I've only dipped my toe into this genre. But you know what? I did play Tormented Souls, and I haven't finished it. But anyway, basically Heaven Dust is, I guess you can call it isometric, but it has more of like this cartoony style. But a lot of people basically just said that that it's like it harkens back to the original Resident Evil, and I enjoyed it. So all in all, Heaven Dust is this, right? So you're a character that has like a cartoon aesthetic, and basically what you do is that you're in this base. So there's a map, and then basically what you do is that you start out, you have 6 inventory slots, so everything takes up 1 slot. So your gun takes up 1 slot, ammo takes up 1 slot, and any items. And I just feel like it was a good representation on what most people who played Resident Evil, the original trilogy, it was a good representation of that genre, or that feeling of those games, of being in a space, opening up, getting items to open up new passageways, and then with those new passageways, you are able to move around and take your ways and avoid zombies, because sometimes in this game zombies will respawn. So you're able to basically, the more you advance in the story, the more areas you unlock, the more paths you unlock, and then you can pretty much get around without having to get too involved with the enemies if your supplies are low. Now, basically, I enjoyed this game because, like I said, I always wish that I was there to enjoy and have that love for the original. Resident Evil, because I remember when Resident Evil Remake came out on the GameCube, and I remember when that was a big deal. And I just kind of got into Resident Evil at 5. So I was just like, okay, like I missed that style. But I was always interested. If there's a video or something on YouTube and it's about the old school Resident Evils, I would typically say, hey, you know, this looks enjoyable. So all in all, Heaven Dust basically is just like the basics of Resident Evil old school. So what do I mean by that? So you basically only have 6 slots. Now you can reload your weapons in real time, or you can reload them in the, here's another game that I play, survival horror, Daymare 1998. And I'm really looking forward to Daymare 1994 Sandcastle. Okay, but let's go to, like I said, so you can do these things that I recognize is from Resident Evil. So 6 item slots. You basically use these items, and then you have a item box. So basically, whatever you grab, you know. So I remember that there was like a turning wheel, like a turning wheel for like a valve. There was the battery that you would use for generators. There was a half, you know how like what is it called? Like a chest. Like a shield key, and then there was that doors that will unlock using half the key. Then there was doors that were used for combining 2 keys together, and then you would unlock those, and then you would do what you need to do in those rooms. So basically, this game Heaven Dust had a lot of backtracking, and from what I heard, it has more backtracking than the original Resident Evil. So for me, it was just like, okay, go here, go to this room. Okay, there was something there. The only thing I would say that I'm not really fond of these types of old school survival horror is the puzzles. Because the puzzles, they're not difficult. It's like you just need to stop thinking so hard, if that makes any sense. Like there was one puzzle, right, where it basically said, okay, there's these 3 symbols on a projector screen, and it was these symbols were meant to be 1, 2, and 3, and then it said combine this information with the chair layouts. And I sat there and I thought that in the row that had I thought you were supposed to, because it said combine, I thought it meant add, but what it really was just trying to say is that this is the row for the first number, because most combinations to like safes and lockers and stuff was like 3 numbers. So it was just telling me, instead of adding each chair as like the number 3, it just meant this is the first number, this is the second number, this is the third number. And then once I realized that, like, okay, I'm thinking about this too hard, that's when I realized, okay, all right, maybe I need to just stop like pressuring myself and thinking that, like, because sometimes when it comes to puzzles, I like puzzles to where you have to think a little bit, but I don't like puzzles that are difficult to the point to where you're like, how am I supposed to know this? Now, some lockers, you need like notes and stuff to figure out. So there was some notes to where I didn't collect those notes. I had to look online to get those. And all in all, this was a very, very, very good game. It was, like I said, it was short. It was 3 hours and 5 minutes for me. There are people who beat it in like 30 minutes or 90 minutes, rather. I think some people may do it in 30, but for the most part, I know it's like 90 minutes I've seen. And it's just a really, really fun game. And the weapons, you don't get too much. You don't get you have the opportunity to make a lot of ammo. So basically the way that the ammo works in the game is you pick up regular ammo, and it'll give you probably like if you find it in the world and you pick it up, it'll be like whenever you have a pickup in the world, it'll be something shiny, and then you go to it, you collect it, and then it's like, okay, this is handgun ammo, so you know you're going to get about 20 of those. It typically takes about 5 shots to kill an enemy, and then a base zombie, but you do also get criticals, so sometimes it'll only take 3 shots. Sometimes it'll take 5. And it was just, and there's also the ability to make your own ammo. So you find these shells. So basically you can create ammo for your handgun if you combine the gunpowder that you can get from vendors. Oh yeah. Let me talk about the vendors. So the vending machine, basically, as you kill enemies, they drop these tokens. You take these tokens and then you say, hey, for 1 token, you get a map of the area. So the map is blurred out in sections. So there's an east section, a main 2 main sections, 1 north, 1 south, and then there's 1 west. And each time you go to these vending machines, you can get the filled out map that tells you, okay, this is where the safe room is. And it tells you what room is what room. And that's that. And it's just, so basically as you start killing things, because in the beginning of the game, I was killing everything. I didn't start dodging or like picking specific routes until a little later in the game, when I realized that, like, okay, I have a whole bunch of shells. I just don't have the gunpowder to match the shells. At one point I had over 100 shells. So basically, shells are basically just cartridges and stuff that you can find around the world. I can't tell you if it's like, if you use your gun and then you get to reuse those. I just found them littered around this place, and then you're able to use gunpowder. And 1 coin will get you 15. But the only thing is that I found way more shells than I did gunpowder, because you can only get gunpowder if you find it in the world or if you buy it from the vending machines. And it seemed like there was an imbalance, as if there was only ever like 100 shells, but there was only like maybe like 50 gunpowder. So I always, in the item box, because they're all linked, I always just had a whole bunch of shells, and I was like struggling to get the gunpowder. But all in all, you go through the game, it's, like I said, very, very puzzle heavy. It's just really, really good. Now, there's a final boss. There's only 1 boss in the game. And at the end, it's basically, it reminded me of a boss from Daymare 1998. If you guys remember, there was a monster to where maybe you've never played Daymare 1998, but in Daymare 1998, there's a boss that's very similar than the one that is in Heaven Dust. And it's where there's a place in the middle of the room to where you want to trap this boss, and then that's how you damage and then you interact with something, and then that's how you damage the boss. And then after you beat the boss, you actually, there's a countdown, self-destruct countdown, and then you run out. So all in all, I feel like it's a really, really good basic, not too stressful, much more logical, much more on the puzzles than it was action. But the sequel is what I'm really excited to play, because Heaven Dust 2 is much more action-packed. And I'm really, really excited because I'm going to be playing that next. So Heaven Dust was just really, really good. But there were times to where I understand that gamers back in the day, where you kind of got all these items, and sometimes you had to combine these items. Like, for example, right? At one point you get 3 different vials of liquid. I tried to mix up. You can mix up 2 of them, but you can't mix. You have to mix it a specific way. And I thought that I was doing something wrong. So I had to go online and then say, oh, so instead of mixing this with this, I needed to use this with that. And then I was like, so I was kind of half right. And that's kind of what it was, because this game doesn't have like an objective system, in the sense of, like, if you look at your map, it tells you this is where you need to be next. Like, it doesn't hold your hand. And I guess gamers back in the day, they really liked that, and they liked that system of because I hear it all the time with people who like Resident Evil, old school Resident Evil, to where it's like you get a key and you don't use it for like 2-3 hours, and then you forgot that you picked up the key, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot I picked that up and I can use that now. And they like that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I just don't. But I didn't mind it. I don't like it, but I can see that, like, at least in Heaven Dust, there wasn't that many things to do. So I knew that, like, when I was stuck, because sometimes I would be like, okay, let me go over here to the far west, and then I'm like, to the far east, and then I'm like, yeah, the far west. And then I'm like, all right, nah, I need to go to the east. And then I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I know I'm supposed to do something. And then I figured just go into my inventory and then I would figure it out. So all in all, it's a fun game. Fun game. But I'm personally excited for the sequel. So I'm going to be playing that. And then once I start that, I know that it's about 10 hours long. So Heaven Dust 1 is about 3 hours. Heaven Dust 2 is about 10 hours. I'm kind of making a video.
About what?
Video games. I'll be done in a minute.
All right.
Yeah, so all in all, yeah, it's going to be 10 hours. So Heaven Dust 2 is going to be a much more regular length. And from what I've seen some footage of Heaven Dust 2. It seems to be like really, really action packed. I think the aiming system is different now, because like in Heaven Dust 1, it's like you just target the zombie and it doesn't register whether you hit the head. It's just like you're hitting the zombie. But at least in Heaven Dust 2, it looks to be that if you hold your lock on, it'll eventually aim at the creature's head. So I know that they got dogs in Heaven Dust 2. They got zombies. They got mutated monsters, bosses. I'm just excited. I've even seen some cool armor. So like I'm excited. I'm also gonna be playing another RPG. I'm thinking about playing Ash of God Redemption. So I'm gonna be playing an RPG, and I'm gonna also be playing survival horror. So what are my plans for the survival horror? I want to beat Resident, because this is gonna be my next few games. I want to get through my survival horror games. So I want to finish. This is just for the future. I want to finish. Tormented Souls. I'm probably about halfway. I want to finish The Evil Within 2. I want to play the original Resident Evil 4, and I want to play the remake of Resident Evil 4, along with the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3. So all in all, I think I'm gonna be on a survival horror / RPG binge for like the next couple weeks, months. So the next video, I don't know what we'll have. You know what? We're gonna have, the next video is gonna be Heaven Dust 2 and also an RPG. I'm thinking either Children of the Zodiac or Ash of Gods. I'm not sure, but I will let you guys know. But that's just that. I needed to make this video, and I'm happy that I did, because I'm knocking games off my backlog, and we're getting progress. We're making progress. So I'm gonna holler at you guys later. Peace. And like I said, see you about this weekend. All right, be safe. I'll catch you later. Qrider out.